Reading now from the Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Kriyananda, entitled God Remembrance. To remember God means not only to think of Him constantly, but to realize that finding Him is an act of remembrance truly. For it is from Him that we have come. When the clouds of delusion evaporate from our minds, what will be left is what was there always, hidden behind the clouds, the blazing sun of divine consciousness. One should not strain nor reach outwardly mentally to think of God. Know that He has been yours always, nearer than your nearest thoughts and feelings, nearer than the very prayers you offer Him. Think not merely about Him, think to Him. Share with Him your passing feelings, your idlest fancy. Talk with Him. Practice His presence at first, perhaps, for a few minutes a day, then for hours, and then all the time. And let's affirm together, I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth.
I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth.
Bliss infinite, eternal love.
Bliss infinite, eternal love.
I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth.
I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth.
Bliss infinite, eternal love.
Bliss infinite, eternal love.
And a little quieter, I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth. Bliss infinite, eternal love. And whispering, I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth. Bliss infinite, eternal love. And silently, I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth. Bliss infinite, eternal love. And pray silently with me, Lord, Thou art always with me. Help me to feel behind my thoughts Thy inspiration, behind my every emotion, Thy calm, all-transforming love. And from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This week is entitled, What was the Star of Bethlehem? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Divine vision is the opposite of worldly sight. Divine vision sees God's presence behind all outward appearances. Worldly sight sees appearances merely, quoting even the blazing wisdom of a saint. A master to the worldly man is a human being with perhaps a slightly better attitude than the norm. The scriptures therefore strive to demonstrate how the divine consciousness, when openly active among men in the lives of great masters, must never be viewed as an expression of ordinary human consciousness. To seek the presence of divinity behind the life of a great master is to prepare oneself to recognize that same divinity also in lower manifestations, until at last one beholds God everywhere. Thus it was that Paramahansa Yogananda, on observing his new disciple Swami Kriyananda struggling with the contrast between the Guru's human appearance and his inner divine reality, looked at him deeply one day and said, "If you only knew my consciousness." The story of the birth of Jesus Christ contains an account in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 2, of the Star of Bethlehem. The wise men who sought Jesus in his manger said, "We have seen his star in the east, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was." This account was important, for it showed all mankind that Jesus was a divine incarnation and no ordinary man, and that he brought divine consciousness to earth, even though he would play a human role among human beings, and that others too, by receiving him in their inner hearts, would acquire power, as the Bible put it, to become the sons of God. The scriptures enjoin us to meditate on the lives of great souls, that we may discover our own latent spiritual greatness. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it in the 4th chapter, who knows the truth touching my birth on earth and my divine work, when he quits the flesh, puts on its load no more, falls no more down to earthly birth, to me he comes, dear Prince. Thus through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday service. This is a reading from Whispers from Eternity. Demand for union with the Almighty. O Father, behold me through the pores of the sky. Smile at me through the twinkling stars. Strengthen me through the sun. Calm my feelings through the moon. Caress me through the breeze. Love me through my love. Throb in me through my heart. Breathe thine immortality through this mortal frame of mine. Speak through my voice. Help others through my hands. Use my mind to inspire them. Breathe through my breath. For within this fragile vial, thou alone canst sing thy complete eternal song. And this is a reading from the autobiography of a yogi. This is from the chapter, I Go to America. I prayed and prayed. Well, I'll start here. One early morning, I began to pray with an adamant determination to continue to even die praying until I heard the voice of God. I wanted his blessing and assurance that I would not lose myself in the fogs of modern utilitarianism. My heart was set to go to America, but even more strongly was it resolved to hear the solace of divine permission. I prayed and prayed, muffling my sobs. No answer came. My silent petition increased in excruciating crescendo until at noon I had reached a zenith. My brain could no longer withstand the pressure of my agonies. If I cried once more with an increased depth of my inner passion, I felt as though my brain would split. At that moment, there came a knock outside the vestibule, adjoining the Gorpar Road room in which I was sitting. Opening the door, I saw a young man in the scanty garb of a renunciate. He came in, closed the door behind him, and refusing my request to sit down, indicated with a gesture that he wished to talk to me while standing. He must be Babaji, I thought, dazed, because the man before me had the features of a younger Lahiri Mahashaya. He answered my thought, yes, I am Babaji. He spoke melodiously in Hindi. Our Heavenly Father has heard your prayer. He commands me to tell you, follow the behests of your Guru and go to America. Fear not, you will be protected. After a vibrant pause, Babaji addressed me again. You are the one I have chosen to spread the message of Kriya Yoga in the West. Long ago, I met your guru, Yukteswar, at a Kumbh Mela. I told him that I would send you to him for training. I was speechless, choked with devotional awe in his presence, and deeply touched to hear from his own lips that he had guided me to Sri Yukteswar. I lay prostrate before the deathless guru. He graciously lifted me from the floor. Telling me many things about my life, he then gave me some personal instruction and uttered a few secret prophecies. Kriya Yoga, the scientific technique of God realization, he finally said with solemnity, will ultimately spread in all lands and aid in harmonizing the nations through man's personal, transcendental perception of the Infinite Father. With a gaze of majestic power, the Master electrified me by a glimpse of his cosmic consciousness. In a short while, he started toward the door. Do not try to follow me, he said. You will not be able to do so. Please, Babaji, don't go away, I cried repeatedly. Take me with you. Looking back, he replied, not now, some other time. Overcome by emotion, I disregarded his warning As I tried to pursue him, I discovered that my feet were firmly rooted to the floor. From the door, Babaji gave me a last affectionate glance. He raised his hand by way of benediction and walked away, my eyes fixed on him longingly. I sat down into a deep meditation, unceasingly thanking God not only for answering my prayer, but for blessing me by a meeting with Babaji. My whole body seemed sanctified through the touch of the ancient, ever-youthful Master. Long had it been my burning desire to behold him. And then, of course, we know the rest of the story. Master went to America. He left his family. He left his beloved India. He left the saints and sages that he had been spending time with from a very young age. And he left behind him, for as far as he could tell, for the rest of his life, the beautiful vibration of India that he held in his heart. He loved India, but he made that sacrifice so that he could go to America and take on his guru's wishes to spread the teachings of Kriya Yoga to the West. And look what has been the result of his sacrifice. He went there, he couldn't speak a word of English. He got on the boat, they asked him to speak. He stood there for 10 minutes and prayed to Sri Yukteswar. Everybody was laughing at him on the boat while he was waiting to speak. And he prayed and he said, "Help me. They want me to speak. I want to be your representative. Help me." And in his head, Sri Yukteswar said, "Speak. Speak, you can do it." And he opened his mouth and he gave a beautiful talk on the balanced life and the battle of life. And everybody understood. And afterwards he couldn't remember what he said. But he changed those people's lives. They were with the Master. He came into Boston. He didn't know anybody. He didn't have a friend. And slowly, he spoke at the Conference of Religions. People started giving him appointments to speak in public, and slowly, but it didn't happen all at once. It was very hard for him. He had orange robes and a turban, and in conservative Boston, people made fun of him walking down the street. Until his first Kriya Yogi came, Dr. Lewis. And then the next Kriya Yogi came. And then the next one. And then the next one. And he steadfastly gave Kriya Yoga to his disciples as they appeared, one by one. And he was in Boston, and he would talk to his first Kriya Yogi in America, and he would he was staying in a very small, it's called the YMCA in America. They're very sort of dismal places, and he was in this small room, and he was telling his disciple how much the work was going to spread, and the thousands of people that were going to be helped, and the beautiful buildings that were going to be donated, and the work that was going to go on for centuries to come. And Dr. Lewis would look at him and look around the room and kind of go, "When, Master? Are you sure?" Because there was nothing outwardly manifesting at that time, but it was all inward. It was all inward, and he had the blueprint. And he had the guidance of his guru, and he had that inspiration. And he was so in tune with God that everything he did expanded on the work that his guru gave him to do. When you start a spiritual work, it is not easy. It is not easy to start a work from nothing, from scratch. It isn't easy. Master was a master, and he had all sorts of challenges to contend with. But he had that vision of light, and he had a deep desire to help people. And he knew that that desire was from God, and he had a compassion for people. He cared about people more than himself. He was utterly selfless in his life when he went to America, and for his whole life, just giving and giving and giving until so many people look at it now. Look at the work now. Look how many Kriya yogis are on the planet now. It started from Master, from the West. When he went to America, I've been reading this beautiful biography of Mother Teresa. And this was the one approved biography that she approved of. And she read the biography before she passed away, and she very much trusted this man to write her biography. Everybody wanted to make her out as a saint, above the rest of the world, just came in as an angel and just made things happen. But this soul wrote the story of Mother Teresa as she wanted it to be told as something that, a life that everybody could aspire to. She was an ordinary person, an ordinary soul. This is what she said. We all know she was much more than that, but she lived an ordinary life. And she was very happy in her convent in Loreto as a Loreto cloistered nun, and she was teaching, and she loved teaching. She loved her life. She was there for 20 years. And then she's on a train, and she gets this inspiration. I need to leave this cloistered life and go on my own and work with the poorest of the poor. Well, she knew it was true because she was very in tune with guidance from God, because she loved God, and that was her whole life. So she knew. And so she wrote it all down, and she took it to her confessor. For 1 year, she had to wait. She had to wait even for permission. They had to go to the bishop, the archbishop, the pope, had to come back. And when it finally came back to her after a year, the permission, they had stipulated, you can do this as a secular work, but you cannot be a religious. You cannot be, you cannot take a vow, a religious vow. You can only do this as a social worker. She said, no, I'm a religious. I'm doing this because Jesus is guiding me. This is a spiritual work. This is not social work. We're helping people touch God. That is the work. The work is a spiritual work. The world did not condone that. She had to go back to the Pope, and then took another 6 months. Finally, she got her permission to, as a religious, which was her whole life, she was a spiritual soul, to start this work. And so she started. She started all by herself, one nun. She had 3 little saris, and she went to her confessor, and he blessed the saris. You know, in the Catholic Church, you have a habit, and they may have a big ceremony. She had 3 little saris. She left her convent and just went out. She had seen through her window the slums of Calcutta. She had seen the slums, and she knew exactly what she was going to do. So she just went there. She went to the slums in her little white sari with the blue trim on it. No buildings, no funding, no money, the Catholic Church did not support her in this. They were all standing back watching just to see if it would work. You know how it is. Nobody wants to jump in and help until it's working, and then they all want to jump in. So the very first service that she performed was to teach the children. But the people in the slums didn't trust her. There was this European nun in a sari, very unusual, and they didn't trust her, so they all stayed back. But one day she just went to the middle of the slum, and there was this dirt in front of her. She had no books, she had no slates to write on, no chalk, anything. And she took a stick, and she just started writing in the dirt with one stick. And all of a sudden, you know, one by one, the people would come and see what she was writing. And she was writing the alphabet for the children so that the children could learn. And pretty soon, the children started coming, and then their parents started coming, and she taught them hygiene, and she taught them the absolute basics of living a better life. She had no highfalutin ideas of building a chapel. She just wanted to help the kids that came, and she did. And from those few kids, from her writing a stick in the ground, writing with the stick, look at her work now. Every single country has something of Mother Teresa. Has a convent, has a school, has a leper hospital, has so many things, the home for the dying. Look what she did. And when they found out that all of a sudden she was really having an impact. One by one, her novices from the beautiful convent that she came from came, and they joined. And they took their vows, and they worked in the streets of Calcutta. And they picked up the dying, and they worked with the lepers, and they did all the things that people abhorred and would not go near. But her philosophy was that this is Christ. This child is Christ. This leper is Christ. This sick person, this dying person, this is Christ. This is not just something to be dismissed because it's unpleasant to look at. No. This is Christ, and we are going to help them live in dignity. She didn't try to convert them. As a matter of fact, she was against it. Why do you want to convert them? Then they go home to their Muslims family and their Hindu families, and now they don't fit in. She said, don't convert them. Have them live in dignity. Have them tune into their inner guidance. Have them love Jesus, who was her guru. It's such a beautiful story when you think about it, because look at the far-reaching benefit for the world that this one nun had the vision. But how could she have that power? How could she have that incredible strength to just a normal person like you or me? What gave that to her? It was attunement to her guru. That's what gave it to her. And it was a work that Christ wanted to do through her. And she tuned into that. It's not that Mother Teresa's work is any better than Yogananda's work or Ramakrishna's work or anybody else's work. What the beauty of her work is that she loved God and she wanted to share that love. And that's all. That's all she did. And whenever anybody came in with big donations and big corporations, when she was popular, wanted to give her lots of money, she would refuse it. Because she didn't want their influence, their worldly influence. She didn't build huge hospitals. But when a little nun came out of the slums and wanted to take a vow to help, to really give of themselves and give their life and help in the streets, then she would let them in. And always, she said, I want to take donations from people that are loving, that see. And so she would take these little donations, little rupees, like nothing. Look what her work grew into. It's really quite extraordinary because she never gave up that vision. She never gave up her love for God, and she just did it. And she didn't wait. It's Nishkam Karma, I'm sure. This book says she went through tremendous challenges trying to get the work. Trying to get the work done. One of the things that she did was that her nuns, when they started coming, one nun came and then another and another and another and another, and pretty soon she was left with all these nuns, and they had a very rigid spiritual life in terms of sadhana and service, but she wouldn't let them work inside an institution. Once these buildings got built, like the leper home in Calcutta, for more than 2 weeks, her mission, her role was to go out in the streets. And she wanted all the nuns to be out there, so she would rotate them in. She didn't want anybody to get comfortable. And this man that wrote the biography, when Mother Teresa was very old, he said that when he interviewed these nuns, these ones that had been with her and that had given their lives to service in this way, when she interviewed them, he said every single one of them looked younger, like 10, 15, 20 years younger than they really were. They had these bright faces, beautiful smiles, cheery, happy, and their work was something we couldn't even imagine doing. But they loved the work. They loved God because they saw Christ. They saw Christ. It's what we have to do. It's what we have to do. It's not that that was her work. But the great spiritual works that happen on this planet start out with inspiration from Divine Mother, a guru, powerful spiritual vibration, and humility. We must have humility. And so when Swami Kriyananda started the work at Ananda, he had nothing. He didn't even know where to go, what to do. He didn't even have any money either, and he just didn't know what to do. What did he do? He picked up his guitar and sang a song. Somebody heard it. And they said, that gave me so much joy. He did a talk. Somebody said, I was going to commit suicide and I heard your talk. And now I can see that I have a life to live now. Thank you. Inwardly, Swamiji couldn't even feel the joy. But the joy was pouring from him because he was doing his guru's work. He was selfless. He didn't have an agenda. The only agenda he had was Divine Mother, serving her, loving her. And now look what has come of that. Every great spiritual work starts with one person, one soul. And if it's a pure spiritual work, if it's done without ego, if it's done with selflessness and humility and unconditional love and compassion, and really with the desire to help people, when it's done that way and you don't forget God, then the work will spread. Because spiritual work touches hearts. It's not a social work. It touches hearts. And when you're in tune with God, He can do anything through you. St. Francis, look at his work. He started out, he left his family. They kicked him out. He was a wealthy man. He was left with nothing. He's going the streets of Assisi. Everybody said he was a madman, that he was crazy, giving up all that wealth and that stability and the secure life. And he didn't care because he knew in his heart that God was guiding him. He knew it. Nobody can take that away from you. Once you know that you're being guided by Divine Mother, that's between you and Divine Mother. Nobody can take that away. And they'll try. This world will try because they won't understand. And we don't dance to the same tune. We don't want material things. We don't want money. We don't want security in this world. We want to serve God. And serving God makes your life a little scary and challenging. But St. Francis went out and did it. He had a dream. Divine Mother, Jesus, appeared to him and said, rebuild my church. The church at that time was totally corrupt, totally falling down. There was no spirituality left in the church. And so, go build my church. That's what Jesus said to St. Francis. So St. Francis thought, okay, I'll go do it. So he went to the forest outside of Assisi. There was a broken down church. So he just started building the church. He started rebuilding that church. And that wasn't exactly what God wanted. He wanted him to start an order. He wanted him to start a whole fresh new flow of energy. So finally, he got the idea to start a brotherhood. And then when he started serving the poor, when he started giving what he had of himself, when he started serving selflessly, when he started going house to house begging and then taking the food and giving it to poor people, when he was so humble that everybody scoffed and made fun of him and they kicked him out, they said he was crazy. He had a dream. He had a beautiful dream. He was laying in the church that he had rebuilt, and there was this building, and on one side of the building there was this, the Pope was there, and the building was falling over, and the Pope was on one side, and there was this little man on one side of the building, and the building was going, and that little man was holding it up with his hand. And that little man, he woke up and he realized that was him. That was St. Francis. The Pope and the church were falling, but he was holding it up. How could one little man with not a dime to his name hold up the whole Catholic Church? How? How could he start a whole new work? Because he had humility. He had unconditional love. He cared more for others than he did himself. And he wanted to serve his guru. So he went forward, not knowing what the end result was going to be. Very soon, many brothers started coming, and St. Francis's order of the brothers just took off. And now that's all over the world. but it started with one soul. So the reason why I'm sharing these stories and that I've been so inspired reading about them is we need to think of ourselves as that one soul. We need to think of ourselves not as people that are going to wait and see how it all turns out. Why do we want to wait and see how it all turns out? It may never turn out. What we need to do as disciples of a great master, as lovers of God, as spiritual aspirants, as people that want to make a real difference, lasting difference in this world, what we have to do is take these first steps. We need to take little steps and stop thinking about ourselves. Stop worrying about the outcome. Stop trying to make our material world perfect. And go inside in deep meditation and touch that part of you that is yearning for you to touch it. That part of us, our soul, is waiting for us to go inside in deep meditation and tune into what it is we're supposed to do in this life. We all have something to do in this life. We all have challenges. We all have heartache. We all have things that take us away from the happiness that we think we deserve. Every single person has something. Don't think that anybody comes in unscathed and just all ready to go and isn't this fun and all the money rolls in and everything opens up and isn't it great and everybody loves you and you don't have any challenges. I don't know anybody like that. Maybe you do. But we need to go inside and forget all that and touch that part of ourselves that's real, that's waiting for us to express through us. That soul nature, that gift that we've been given needs to be expressed through us, through this physical body, through our life. Don't wait and sit back. I really think it's important now, more than ever, that each one of us has something to do. Like Mother Teresa, writing in the stick in the dirt. People might laugh at you. People might not understand. People will say you're impractical. Well, what's the most practical thing we can do? The most practical thing is to love God. It's the most practical thing. Don't forget to love God. Because in that love, you become that love, and that love expands. And then you begin to see the difference that you make in this world. We weren't born just to be born and eat and drink and be married and have grandchildren and then die. I mean, we can, but it seems awful boring to me. You just have to think that you're something. But in that thought, you have to think that you're nothing. You have to know that you have something to do in this world. It's not just, give me the blessings, give me the blessings, give me the blessings. To a certain degree, we need blessings, of course. But then what are we going to do with those blessings? We just going to sit on them? We just going to say thank you, and then go to the next guru and get blessings from him, and go to the next shrine and get blessings from that shrine and this shrine? That's great. But at one point, let's use our lives as instruments for the divine, and let's share those blessings. Nobody is going to do it in the same way. Nobody's going to have the same gift. Everybody is an individual spark of the infinite, born into this world through love, just as Christ was. Christ was born into this world as a poor baby. Yogananda explains that he was personifying the Christ consciousness, the consciousness of unconditional love beyond this body. And Christ, who was so powerful in his love, how could Mother Teresa's work have spread so far over so many years? How could Christianity have come this far from 2,000 and some years ago? It's through love. It's through divine love. It's because Jesus loved and he was in tune with God. How could Master's work have spread all over? He initiated 100,000 people into Kriya. Think of it, 100,000. That's quite an amazing figure. How could that be if he wasn't in love with God? How could he? No human being can do anything on our own. No, nobody can do it. But God can, and God can do it through us. So when I was thinking about this Sunday service, I was thinking, what about Ananda? Right now, Ananda in India, it's just starting. Not really, it started 12 years ago with Swamiji. Swamiji was one 80-some-year-old man that came and started this great work. But now what? What about now? When are we going to look at it and say, wow, my God realized master, my guru, has started this work through Swami. I have Kriya Yoga. I have the blessing. I have meditation. I have satsang. I have all the things that I need. When are we going to start to share it? When and where and how? That should be the question for each one of us. When and where and how are we going to share the light that is within us? Not, is there light? We know there's light. Look at this light. There's light everywhere. Not, how do I feel about it? Don't worry about how you feel about it. It's just karma. We want to get past feeling. And we want to go into the light and be in that impersonal state where you are in tune with God and He is guiding every moment of your life, every thought, every word, every action. Just like Mother Teresa. She wouldn't let a nun join her order who was not even-minded and cheerful. That was the main criteria. They had to be strong physically, but they had to be even-minded and cheerful. Because when they were working with the dying people and with lepers and with sick people and children, the poorest of the poor, what do you want to do? Put your mood onto them? She needed them to be cheerful so that she could uplift their consciousness. And that's what we can do right where we've been placed. We can uplift consciousness in our families, in our workplaces, in the satsang. We can uplift consciousness. So let's not wait. This is what the world needs. All of us sitting here, all of us listening, all of us who are part of Ananda. You don't have to join Ananda to lift consciousness, but you do have to love God. And you do have to have a spiritual life. And you do have to be humble and listen to what your next step is. And then you will see all of these things will be added onto you. All of the help you need, all of the support, all of the love, everything you need will be added onto you if you think of God first and then share that love. Don't worry. Padre Pio was a great Christian saint. One of his main teachings to his brothers was, don't worry. I love that. Quit worrying. Master said, go on a worry fast. We worry so much about what's going to be and how's it going to be in my life, in my life, in my life. Well, we do have a life, but let's give it to God. Let's give our lives, all of it, to a purpose higher than ourselves. And we will see that there is so much joy, so much bliss. And then when we're 80 and someone comes to see us, they'll say, wow, they look 10 or 15 years younger. They're happy people. Why is that? Because there's joy in serving God. There's so much joy. There's nothing like it. There's nothing in this world that will compare to that joy of serving God. I want to close with just saying that we have an 8-hour meditation this Christmas. It's an annual 8-hour meditation. Very, very incredibly deep experience. And we're going to be having it here in Jayanagar. And last night I received from Devarshi a beautiful whole, it was just a page after page after page of Master leading the 8-hour meditation in Mount Washington in 1932. So inspiring. And in this meditation, Master was having visions of Christ and having visions of Divine Mother and having visions of Kali and guiding the group to go deeper and deeper and deeper into Divine Mother's love. It was so beautiful. I'm going to copy it out and give it out for Christmas present. Even though it's under copyright, don't say where you got it. But anyway, it's so beautiful that by the end of just reading this, I felt like I had meditated. because there was a great master of self-realization guiding us to God. Every moment we should be thinking of that. Go inside, know and feel your connection to God. First meditate, then serve. So simple. Our life is so simple. Meditate and serve. So we invite you all to come to this 8-hour meditation. We're going to do it again. It was going to be 4 hours, but we lengthened it to 8 hours after I read this for Master's birthday. We're going to do it again, and so we'll have 2 8-hour meditations here in Bangalore. So I want to thank you all for coming and listening, and may you have a blessed 8-hour meditation, which is next Saturday. Please come and join us, and we'll send a letter and give you all the details this week. So God bless you all.